about what is happening within the Lisk community, what people are working on, and what keeps the community awake this week. My name is Jurre Magielsen. I am part of the Moosey team, a blockchain development studio, and part of Lisk Center Utrecht, a blockchain developer community in the Netherlands. Today, we are joined by Tom Ploem, the man behind Endro Labs and a concept named Journals. With Journals, he has won the first ever HackOnLisk hackathon. So today we will talk with Tom about Journals, and first a quick update on the most important thing happening within the Lisk ecosystem, because the date for the mainnet migration has been changed. It will take place on Saturday, the 21st of August. And if you would like to know the expected migration time, check out lisk.observer. It is the largest update to the Lisk mainnet in its history and likely one of the biggest updates to a running production blockchain ever. So it will come with major upgrades, among which a new consensus algorithm, a dynamic fee system, a new ID system, and a complete new and modular architecture of the SDK. Keep in mind, there is no immediate support for the Lisk mobile wallet and hardware wallets. So if you need immediate access, download Lisk Desktop beforehand. And also keep in mind that exchanges might close the trading of Lisk the day of the migration or even before. So all the links to relevant blog posts will be shared in the description below. And today we are talking with Tom. Welcome, Tom. How are you?
Hi, Jurre. I'm doing very good. How about you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thanks. So Tom is a respected community member of Lisk and also a long-time community member. When did you enter the Lisk Discord or Lisk community actually?
Back when it was still Rocket Chat. I think it was 2017 or something, if I'm not mistaken, or 2016, first time, and like the silent viewer in chat, but not active.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, the Rocket Chat, that's a long time ago. So you were actually one of the first, because 2016 they did the ICO, and yeah, a long-time community member. So do you know everybody in the community?
Almost everybody. It's a wide community with also parts in Asia, also America and others. I know a lot of people in Europe, but yeah, like I mentioned, Asia and stuff is a bit more fake.
Yeah. So how did you learn about Lisk? Why did you enter this community? Do you know? Do you remember?
It was back when the first boom was there, I think, and then I was doing an internship with Michiel Mullers that worked for Lisk, and he was working on BigchainDB, and it's like a database, decentralized database technology. And I remember that they were in Berlin also, and via we came about and saw Lisk and explored like Stellar and all those kind of things. And Lisk back then was the coolest and yeah, the most engaging community. And yeah, I just stick around. And, yeah.
Yeah, and would you say that it's still that case, or did something change over time?
Regarding the community, or
Yes, are we still the most engaging community, or?
I would say yes, in a sort of way. In other communities, I tend to see a lot of different chats and like different Discords, different Telegram groups, and everything is separate. And on, for example, the Binance Smart Chains, there are a lot of different groups that work on the same thing, and we tend to wrap everything in our Discord. So
Yeah.
overall, I think this is a more viewable community. Let's say that. Yeah.
That's nice to hear. And I hope that with mainnet migration, everything starts exploding again, especially the things that are being built on Lisk, because we understand that we know that you build a proof of concept for the HackOnLisk hackathon, but is that the only thing you are doing, or how do you actually, how do you live your life currently? Do you work full time in the blockchain space?
I did work full time in the blockchain space, but then there were, yeah, like you mentioned, I also work on Heller.io. I created like Lisk React service package.
What
To
does that
better,
do actually? The Lisk React service?
it's like React hooks for the Lisk client. So there's like, for example, use wallet, and you can easily integrate everything regarding a up-to-date wallet. So for example, you have the authenticate just like you would normally do with the Lisk client. But with Lisk React, the account object that you hold in your React state, for example, is also updated via WebSockets, and there's like an entire architecture that you can use. For example, use block, use client, use wallet, and those are all functions that make it easy and much faster to prototype your application. I use wallet is in my case the most handy because you always have the right state, and if you publish a transaction, the account object in your React application is also automatically updated. So it's pretty neat. Journals is also made with the library.
Yeah, that was actually my next question.
Yeah, it's because of journals that I created like React hooks, and immediately saw that it could be reused in another React application. So yeah, the next step was publishing the package.
Cool. So, and currently you are doing more than only working on these blockchain proof of concepts, I understand.
For journals, it's becoming a bit more serious. We did a proposal for the list grants. I'm now working on how you say it. They're like beginning talks with AI companies that want to see on how to improve the AI algorithms that were used in the application. I'm also participating in the HackFS hackathon to see if decentralized storage, such as Filecoin, could be implemented in the application. Yeah, and for the rest, it's more of a community project, I would say. Journals is a bit more serious right now.
Yeah, cool. So, how would you envision your life to be in about 5 years? What would be your goal? Do you have a goal?
Oof. 5 years is always a lot. I would say to see journals as a full working application with lots and lots of users, um, and have like a real global project that is one of the most valuable projects in the Lisk ecosystem, I would say. That has always been my dream because I think everybody knows that there are other projects that I'm also worked on in the past. And the goal was always to have a successful project in the Lisk community. So currently, I'm hoping that it's journals. And that's
Yes.
the biggest dream in 5 years.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, because you told us beforehand that it was not just a random idea that spun into your head, but you actually have been having this idea for a longer time. So, was it during your studies? What did you study actually?
I studied applied sciences at in Leuven. It's close to my home village. And the idea was indeed spun out of how you call it in English. It's like your bachelor project that you finish in your last year in your last year of study. And then it began a bit more serious, where I also did an internship where I could build out the project with the first AI systems on the internship for a company. But it was always been my ideas, my project, sorry. So no intellectual property was given out or something. And yeah, then it was a bit more silenced on the project, but it was always on my mind that I wanted to create like a better version of journals. But back then, I think it was 2016, 2017. I think I can even give a small view on how the UI looked. It's like a video.
Yeah, cool.
I'll share my screen. It was, I muted the sound, but back then it looked like a really manual tool. So it was still explore new events that you really like. Pretty cool UI. The upload time is even 2016, so it's been a long time. But the basic idea was pretty the same, that you can add who was involved, Steve Jobs, when the event took place and where it was. And then you would add articles together. You would fill up very manual stuff back then, because I didn't know what AI was. And you could actually do a lot of manual stuff. And this was the project page. I'm not going to show the entire to keep it very low key. But as you can see, it was a minimal project that isn't the same like the hackathon project, and it was a really basic application back then. And then it became a bit more quiet in the background, where I learned about blockchain, learned about AI tooling and stuff. And yeah, I picked up the idea 2 months ago and worked it out with Lisk blockchain.
Yeah, cool. So maybe for the people who do not know what the project is about, a demo can be found in the description, like a 10-minute demo by Tom. But can you explain the concept of journals?
Yeah, sure. I also have a pitch deck open, so I could also show some slides.
Perfect.
I'm not going through the entire pitch deck, but the application that I built and also wanted to build 5 years ago was a news platform where users can build the truth together by connecting their stories. So in the recent demo of the Lisk hackathon, there were three big subjects that I wanted to tackle, where the first one was fake news, the other sensationalism, and the overview case. And the overview was always, for me, the biggest one, because, for example, if you create a news article on a news event and you don't have live blogs, for example, that's now a bit more trendy amongst media outlets, you would still need to create a different page with a different article with updated news. So you would immediately get two pages that have different the truth. So you as a user would need to search amongst all those articles to see what's the most recent update on the subject. And of course, yeah, sensationalism get more views by creating a capital case title, and fake news, of course, that's the biggest one, which everybody is probably familiar with. I'm going to skip the solutions because you already saw it. Yeah, I can talk about it. Fake news is with artificial intelligence, you can easily analyze videos. You can see what the user has typed, which entities were involved with text, for example, and you can do a lot of cool, fancy stuff that can remove a lot of fake news. For example, if you would create an event on journals, somebody could say that Barack Obama was in the video while it wasn't. You can easily use artificial intelligence to debug that Barack Obama is in the video, for example. It's a really small case that you can add. Journal is driven by user engagement because we use users in collaboration with artificial intelligence. You can remove the sensationalism because you're more targeting subjects and location in combination with time. So you don't have to use fancy titles. You just have to say, for example, earthquake in Indonesia, and these places are involved. These were the videos, and these were the facts that users took out of the videos, for example. And then the overview, the news is always updated on one single place, so you would always see the correct information without having an endless stream of pages that show different information. Now, how would you tackle such a solution? And it's simply to have people record the incident. In our demo for the HackOnLisk, we used a burning bus example. So a user would upload the video. It could also be images, and in the future, PDFs with official statements from police, for example. And they would start an event. And now the event is a local incident where they would say fire in Utrecht, the Netherlands, for example. And if someone else would pick up the incident and also have a video about the subject, you can connect those user stories with simple geolocation, time, and other cool stuff that, for example, the mentioned entity recognition to see if a single person is in the video. You can easily map those together and create like an event overview that was created for the Lisk hackathon. Now, the coolest thing about the application is the subscription model that was also showcased, called the Treasury, where all the subscriptions that were created on, so for example, you would get a subscription for 3 months. The entire value will be put in the pool and will be distributed amongst events that have a lot of watchers. So, for example, the burning bus in Utrecht. I think the Lisk Center Utrecht might be interested in such a case. They would subscribe and see the latest news about it. We would notice that it would get a lot of traction, so the news event gets a lot more funds via quadratic funding, for example. And this is the basic idea to reward people that help build the event, the live event, via distributing the subscription model in a fair way. And that's the quadratic funding part. And that's a bit in a nutshell. I will not go into the other slides because it was just to explain the idea. But I hope that this would give a broader view about the application.
It certainly does. So, if I understand correctly, it's a place where news will be gathered through individuals that actually that are in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a discussion yesterday with a friend of mine, and you could also say that official news can also be integrated. If we have, for example, an agreement with a local news authority, they could also help build a story by having official images that they report on. And you can also analyze those kind of things and add it to the entire information graph about a news event, for example. But the start is always the user base, because those are the people that always see it. Most people upload it on Twitter or other websites, so they could also upload it and help build the news event.
Yeah, so could we compare it to the system that's being used by news outlets currently? That they mainly have a system where I think it's Reuters or CNN publishes certain news stories, and that they will do their due diligence, but pick up these stories.
Yeah, if they're interested in the subject. So journals is also a place where we could find news that is really interesting to the people, and not specifically what Reuters tries to share with the world, because Reuters is also a firm that that chooses what news is distributed.
Yes.
This is more organic.
Yeah, indeed. So the people who upload those stories, how do you check that they are not fake news or they are not making it up?
Well, most of the information can be debunked via artificial intelligence. So for the hackathon, HackFS, for the Filecoin, there is a minimal pipeline built for uploading a video. So now, new version holds a upload. You upload a video, and the video is checked. For example, the hash is checked if it's already in the database amongst the files that are used on journals. You also have, for example, AI tooling that will be implemented in the future, where you could verify if the person that they mention is in the video, because we're like building an entire stack on, for example, who is Barack Obama, who is this person, and you can have all sorts of AI tooling up front to minimize the information that is coming in, to check the originality. And on the other side, you also have the user collaboration and the user engagement that I mentioned, is that moderation is also a key part of it. For example, on this slide, you see the video upload, but you also see a user PDF upload. There's also a fact checker, and those people also get rewarded to see if the information that is shared from a user is also valid. And you could also implement, for example, moderation tooling that other users that all have credibility in the system. Those verifications are more valid than maybe smaller verifications of users that are new, for example. And you can build up entire moderation tooling and AI tooling that help each other to minimize the fake news that's coming in and that is distributed.
Yes, so you are using the funds that are coming in to actually also moderate the platform or improve the platform.
Yeah. The model is not precise, but you can have percentages of a news event distributed to also valid moderations, for example. Because it's always on the blockchain, everything that happens, so you can easily check which account interacted with which event, for example.
Yes, so that's quite nice, the business model you thought about. So how does it work exactly? People have to subscribe. So if I'm a user, I subscribe to the journals, or do I subscribe to specific news?
Both. So you have the general subscription. You can just view the information, but if you feel just like other news websites that you might be more interested in the platform itself, for example, you could engage in a subscription and view maybe all the information, or I don't know what features will be implemented in the future, but in most cases you would just get a subscription, a general to view all articles, for example, and then you would also have your preferences as a profile. You would say, for example, I'm located in Berlin, Germany, and I'm interested in natural events or maybe politics, whatever you're interested in. And you could always get notifications from events. You would have a customized overview, just like Google News, for example, that showcases your interests. And then you can also subscribe like you would do on other news platforms, and subscribe to an event to see live notifications, for example. And it's basically a contribute button or a watch button that you would do on news events that you are interested in to follow. And those events get your funds in the end.
Yeah.
So it's a trickle down.
And so if I subscribe, my funds are being distributed over maybe certain events, and that you are using quadratic funding for that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not entirely quadratic funding, but in a sense, it is because you can. So a subscription has a fixed fee, and quadratic funding. To explain what quadratic funding is in a short way, is that funds are distributed more fairly amongst projects or articles. In our case, to give more incentive to projects that, for example, are so, for example, news event X has 15 contributors, and news event Y has 10. The news event X gets more rewards because they have a lot more contributors. And in quadratic funding, in its essence, they say, for example, in a traditional way, if you have 15 investors, those 15 investors have 1 million that they invest in a news event, for example, while the other news event might have only 10 contributors, no, 20 contributors, sorry, but have lesser money and, for example, have only 100K. Because they have more contributors, they get more rewards because it distributes in the funds in a more fair way based on the subscribers that are on the event, and not on the value that is in the event. So it distributes the funds more fairly. To not look at the funds, but more to the contributors at a certain event. And in our case, it's subscribers to the news.
And do you also mean that there's like an extra fund that is being released to those events, or is the fund the total subscription amount?
No, it's a portion. So, for example, your money, for example, you contribute 50 Lisk as a subscription. The 50 Lisk is not fully funded to your first news event. It's distributed over time, in the course over a month and over. So let's, for example, say you have 3 months of your subscription. The funds are divided into three, or maybe into more portions to have a more fairer distribution. And then that portion is shared amongst the news events over that time period that you liked, for example. So it's distributed amongst news events over time to have a more balanced funding to events.
Cool. So ideally, how would you see it work in about a couple of years? So how would it change the world for you?
How would it change the world? In my sense, it gives more view on what really happens and what really people are interested in. Um, the reason why I initially started it back in 5 years ago as an internship is that I was really frustrated with the way that media is shared. So maybe 3 years ago, there was the case that Amazon, Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post and stuff. And those moves are really controversial because you have like billionaires that are buying up newspapers and controlling. Basically, they could, I'm not saying that they are, but they could manipulate and remove news stories from being published, while the general public is actually very interested in those kinds of news events. And this was one of the biggest frustrations of me, that there is no decentralized way to distribute the news to a user. So it's always controlled, always since the start of a newspaper, information was always controlled. So my initial, yeah, how you say it, idea to have journals in like say 2 years is that I can say I contributed to a better way that people are using media right now, and that it's not controlled by a few. That's the biggest dream.
That would be awesome. I think so. Um, I had another question in mind, but maybe also so everybody knows, if you're watching, if you have questions, just post them in the chat, or if you are in the Discord, then you can also unmute yourself and just jump into the conversation yourself. We will be here for another 15 minutes at least.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I don't know if this had been a part of the point you were making, but there was a time not too long ago where the Medium blog was trying to hide some of their secrets and whatnot, and people wrote criticism blogs on Medium, and they, of course, were censored, because they were about them. But yeah, and with the conflict of interest with the news posts and all that, yeah, I definitely think that uh, um, we need to find interesting tech solutions to, make our level the playing field. So I really like where you're going with all this, man. Good job.
Thanks. Yeah, you don't want control basically about news. You just want the organic flows of information to see what people are really triggered about.
So, but how would you go on with someone spamming the network, or someone providing news that you are? Yeah, is everything allowed on the platform?
It's of course a work in progress. It was a hackathon project that it's getting a bit more serious. So the first thing that I did 2 weeks ago is get a meeting about the AI behind an upload, for example, to see the originality, to keep reposts from adding, have content extraction that you also saw in the HackOnLisk, where, for example, a image or a video could see what action really happened in the video. So you could, for example, already remove archery videos from being uploaded to a burning bus in our example. But there are a lot of ways that need to be explored. And of course, the two main properties is really go about and try to get the user moderation and the artificial intelligence going to check the content that is uploaded and the content that is already being processed on the platform. And of course, also begin with small subjects. So the main idea now is to target natural disasters, for example. Floodings was a recent topic for Europe. That could be a very good idea to explore, to just first try and nail down natural events, get earthquakes going, maybe a tsunami even, and see how those news events work, and then go about and try to tackle, for example, a bank robbery, because it's an entirely new concept for bank robberies, because there are more people involved. You need to, for example, see if the people that are in the video are the same and are linked. And there's a whole another flow of news in such an event. So it's basically really going slow and seeing if the AI tools are working for natural disasters, and if user moderation is really going, and if we need an extra iteration on those subjects before even exploring new ideas.
Yeah, it seems like a very complex and large project. So, so how would you approach it if you were given like enough money to start the project full time?
Really get top-notch data scientists. That's definitely the first thing, because I already mentioned it, that it was a hackathon ID and everything was loosely coupled. But in my opinion, a lot of information can be filtered if you get the right data scientist up front and really work on the core ID, and not necessarily immediately go for a launch, but maybe spend a year in stealth mode and just explore all the mentioned features like user moderation, and just go about and trying to really nail it down, and then slowly evolve and yeah. Because there's not a lot of time spent on the blockchain part, to be honest, because there, of course, it needs fine tuning. But I think everybody here knows that the Lisk SDK is really easy to use. So in my opinion, there's a lot more efforts to be explored on the data science part than on the UI and the the blockchain part. And that's my biggest goal for the next year, at least, is to really get those backend services top notch.
Yeah, and yeah, so you say that the blockchain part is pretty easy. Although, like the tokenomics or the business model, do you think you already got that figured out, or would you also do research in that area?
Yeah, definitely. Those of course are subjects that needs to be explored. But as I see the application now, subscriptions and event and sharing rewards with event is the most blockchain-esque parts that needs to be trimmed down. Then you have, of course, for example, the user preferences that also need to be added. But as you mentioned, how would you prevent spamming and stuff? Those ideas are more need to be explored more before the blockchain part, in my opinion, because you, of course, are talking about subscription and funding events. And if you don't have a good spamming filter, then a lot of funds will be shared with a nonsense event and the entire ID collapses, for example.
Yes, clear. Thanks. Are there any more questions? Because I see a question from Lisk Poland. It's not specifically about journals. Yeah, since you are also working on other projects, for the people who don't know, so journals, if you would like to see a demo, it's in the description. It's the project that Tom has won HackOnLisk with. And you also have been working on Halar.io. Lisk Poland loves the concept and wishes to see it in the future filled with sidechains and delegate proposals. So what is Halar, and are you still working on it?
Yes, I'm still working on it. I'm definitely working on it, but there's a lot of, for example, the hackathon that came in between the concept. And the reason why I'm still working on it, because it's indeed a very useful tool where people can publish the projects and their delegate campaigns and just explore both and connect in between. But there was, for me, bad coding on my side being done last year, because I had a major release and everything was really quick. So the first thing I wanted to do in, I think it was February, was to rewrite everything to TypeScript. That was done. And then I added functionality and got the idea that it would be the best idea for a new launch to get it also with Next.js. For people that do not know, Next.js is optimizing SEO benefits, that the applications would be ranked better on search engines, for example. So Halar is definitely still going on, but there's a lot of other stuff that came that was blocking the development. I was hoping for August, but it's already half of August, so I'm hoping that the end of August it will be done. But it's I think you can say it's 75% ready with functionality such as getting your delegate campaign to a new project. So the projects will be labeled on the homepage, where you can engage with them and say, hey, I'm a new delegate, and vice versa, that the projects can send out basically an application to all delegates out there and say, hey, is anybody interested to support my testnet, for example? And it's becoming more of a job application website with the exploration features in the backend. But yeah, as Lisk Poland mentioned, it's more of the to see the sidechain validators and the project working together on the platform.
Yeah, it seems like a very cool project. Like so what you are envisioning is that in the future you will have a lot of side chains. Every project has its own chain, and every chain has to be supported through different servers. And the people who are running those servers can find new projects, and people who are building new projects can find people who would like to run a server for that project. Is that right?
Yeah, the basic idea was for me to, for example, in the beginning that the SDK was launched, you can build your local environment very easy and test it everything out. But there's the other level where you test your code in a decentralized manner with a lots of nodes. So my basic idea was to add functionality as a project to say, hey, in the next 48 hours, I want to test my code and to see if I can put up a testnet and if it runs smoothly, or even a beta net or alpha net, and see to get more people much quicker to test your code together. And that became basically a delegate marketplace. You can name it if how you like it. I see it more as a semi-job application form where people ask you things as a delegate that you can help other projects, and vice versa, that you as a delegate ask project, hey, where can I help?
Would it also be possible to do payments over that system?
Not immediately, but it could be a good path to explore. In my opinion, it was always the idea that delegates will have their activity monitored. So if they say, I help the testnet of that project, it will be on the platform. And those have more incentives to be a delegate on the network that they are helping. So the future project that they're helping. And those incentives might be, were in my eyes, a bit more important than having instant payments to help them.
Yes. So about the ecosystem, because this is really a tool that would really support the growth of an ecosystem. Are you currently, what do you like about the Lisk ecosystem and what do you miss?
I like the diversity. The hackathon had a lot of NFT projects, but there were also a lot of diverse in certain ways. So, for example, the Lisk art, where you can build your own NFT from scratch. Marketplace was also there, and there are really a lot of cool things. Now, of course, the community will change. In my opinion, after the 21st of August, it could be a lot more delegates in the running in a few weeks. That could change, and that's maybe the most fun part of the community, that the community is ever changing and the delegates are also becoming more fluid, and that you will see, in my opinion, more activity because of the incentives that people want for their delegate campaign, for example. And of course, I really like the Lisk Utrecht Center. Those people are really putting everything out there.
Thanks for the compliment, of course. But what do you miss? What do you think would be? Is it like it could be tools? It could be more support from Lightcurve, or it could be a bigger community, or people who are doing totally different stuff. Do you think what would you really like to have in the community? What you miss currently?
I'm hoping that it will come with the Lisk grants, but I think we need a bit more serious projects where really teams will start to form and really build out a product Yeah, of course, it's already with the new mainnet launch, the interoperability, those kind of things will bring on new applications. And that's really one thing that I really want to see for the next year is to have, for example, a random team from Ukraine or Colombia that says, hey, we're a team of 5 and we're starting to help the ecosystem. That would be really, really cool that I now miss.
Yeah. So the growth of the serious applications and the community with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I'm really looking forward to journals and also Halar. If anybody has any questions, just post them. This is your last chance. Otherwise, we will, I think, go on and we will close off. Do you have anything you would like to say or ask?
Is it a question for me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Do you have anything you would like to add to our talk?
Well, I'm very grateful that you guys choose journals, and I'm really hoping that the next year can prove other people that didn't maybe see the application as a first place. I can prove them wrong.
Cool. Thanks. So let's close it off over here. Thanks for being our guest for today. And I'm really looking forward for an update about journals another time in the future when it's more mature and hopefully a live application on the Lisk blockchain.
That's also.
So if you're watching this and you are considering building a blockchain application, go to lisk.com/grant-program or I think there will be announced a new hackathon with bigger prizes, more diversity, probably in September or somewhere in the near future. And watch the Lisk ecosystem because the mainnet migration will be huge at the 21st of August. Also thanks to the guys in the background like Sander and Raphael, who are always as part of the Moosey team working in the background. And yeah, those final moments sometimes are a little bit stressy, so thanks for making this happen. Everybody else, thanks for attending. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to read more about the Lisk ecosystem or the community, see the description notes. We have all kinds of links over there. And I hope to see you in about 2 weeks. We will be doing a new Lisk Community Meetup in about 2 weeks. We will also invite other winners of the Lisk Hackathon. And we try to keep you updated about everything that's happening within the Lisk community. So exciting times. See you in 2 weeks and have a good day.